Tons of techniques from clay sculpting to electrical on my take on the classic Hags Hut this week on Tabletop Witchcraft. Hey there, and welcome back to Tabletop Witchcraft. This week we're going to do my take on the very classic Hags Hut. Now, not just any Hags Hut, this is Baba Lysaga's Hags Hut. If you know Baba Lysaga from Curse of Strahd, that's where my campaign is at right now, and I'm going to make the remaining portion of this in next week's video, so make sure to like and subscribe and smash that bell notification so you don't miss out on next week's video where I finish this off. If you want to help support the channel, there's a new Kickstarter out now where a portion of the proceeds will come and help me out. It's the new Pick Your Poison jar by DM Dunn. He also, a while back, did the Healing Potion jar as well. It's a really fun craft that gets people involved in the table. It's a really immersive thing, and it's just fun to roll more dice. Each jar comes with 10d4, and on the poison jar, it's got different level of suggested poisons and DC saves. And on the healing jar, it's got all the healing potions and the modifiers you have to add to them. I'll have a link in the description below where you can go check that out. As well as TWC10 at checkout over at Firelight Fables Candle Company. Gets you 10% off your order, and a small kickback helps my channel as well, so I'd really appreciate you to check them out too. Alright, if you're ready, let's go grab some supplies and let's get crafting. Alright, we're going to kick this video off with the Realm of Shadow Candle by Firelight Fables Candle Company. Now, I'm showing the plans that I've used to create this hut here in the video, and I want to show how they are changed and modified as I build along in the video. I find little corrections, I change them, that way you're getting exactly what you need to follow along in these videos. Now you can cut them out using the stencils, and all we're going to do is use a marker to trace these out onto some foam and then cut them out, and everything should line up perfectly when you go to put this together. You can see the walls are a little bit angled in this video for the craft, so this makes it just a little bit easier. We're going to have some funky little cuts on the bottom, that way the walls are angled in. You're going to get those measurements off of the plans. If you don't want to pick the plans up, not a big deal, follow along, just make some of these angled cuts so that they fit nice when you go to put it together for the floor and for the roof. Alright, now when I use dashed lines in my plans, typically those are for pieces that you need to cut out. And this section right here was a little odd. I was a little concerned with the edge of the window being the way that it was right there. But you're going to see once we add our windows later on in the video and our clay, you're never going to see that, that cut. Now what we're doing is marking the center of our round circular window. I had this window designed. I gave some ideas to Gerard Boom over at Shifting Lands, and he kind of crushed it. Came up with a really cool design, and you'll see that here in just a few minutes. And using that technique and an old window for my stable build just for a placeholder at the moment. At this point in the video, the design of the window wasn't done yet. We can see that it's going to fit real nice. Alright, now it's time to glue all these sides together, and we have the makings of a really nice fantasy looking building. Now, the roof, I'm making it out of a piece of dollar store foam core that I've used on the Proxxon. I've cut it in half, made it really thin. And we're going to move on now to the sequential skull file that you can find at Tiger Skull RPG. He made these for me a couple years ago now. And we're going to place these skulls into the clay to make a really creepy vibe on the exterior of this building. I'm going to crank out some DOS clay. And we're going to use some Green Stuff World rollers to get some really nice detail for the exterior. And here I want to show how I took the printed plan that you can purchase off of itch.io, and I like to just draw on, the overall vibe and feel, and I use that as a go-to while I'm making my craft. Now, adding a little bit of baby powder to our DOS clay, we can then take our Green Stuff World roller. I've used a couple in this video, and we can roll these on, and they're not going to stick to the roller. It's going to make it really nice and enjoyable to use these. And you can see the awesome looking detail we get with the roller. Alright, now this is interesting because, you can go and place the clay onto the foam, glue it on there, but the problem is that it shrinks a little bit once it cures. And I didn't want to have a little gap along all the edges of the timbers on the building. So what I did was I used the plans to cut the pieces out that I needed, and I placed the clay on the foam and I cut it out. Letting it cure, I can then add my timber after the fact, butt it up right against the clay, and we have a really nice tight fit. Right here, all I'm doing is cutting out a couple bricks, adding some glue, and then shoving in those sequential skulls from Tiger Skull RPG to really give this hut a really creepy vibe. If you're enjoying this video and my channel, please consider hitting that subscribe button down below. Then I'll go and add the texture afterwards. Handling the clay, it might, flatten out that texture a little bit. So again, just add that texture afterwards. Using a nice metal straight edge, I can cut out all the pieces of the timber before the clay cures, and I get nice straight lines. And then again, I'll go back after it's cured and add the foam for the wood, and we have a really nice tight fit. Here's another use for a nice straight edge where we can get our lines nice and straight for all the foam. And now you can see how great this foam will fit in there. The nice thing about the foam is that it's got some play, so we can kind of push it into the dried clay and have a really nice tight fit. Now for all the corners, I'm going to add some timbers that are a little bit wider than the brick itself. So just making two 90-degree cuts, we can then add a separate piece of foam, and it gives a little bit of a dimension to the timbers on the building. And then around the windows, I took a small piece of foam, and I'm going to make the top portion of this stone, and then the sill of the window, the bottom of it, out of wood. Now I almost forgot to add these, and you don't need to add a solid piece of foam across the whole thing, just these little, I guess, nubs, and it's going to give the illusion of the support beams across the entire roof. Once we have those in place, we can then glue the XPS foam, or in this case, dollar store foam core, right to the top of the frame. Now here's another example of how it's nice to have these plans. You can see placing this dormer on here, how nice that's going to fit just by having the plan. Now the base of these, we're going to want to bevel those because we want, a Fable looking fantasy type building. I don't want the dormer nice and straight, so we're going to angle those in a little bit. Hot glue to get those in place, keep moving along. And then I'm going to cut out a nice rectangle here for another window later on in the build. Cutting out the backside of the roof, I did that so that I can have light shining through and coming out of this window in the dormer. Alright, now we're going to add some shingles to the roof. You can see we're just trying to place these around the dormer. These are really nice. The jig is from Shifting Lands. It allows you to add some really nice 2-scale shingles to all your crafts. And when you get to the peak of any building, just get creative with, wrapping it around. I don't know what I was going for here. Just made it look like some big stakes were holding in the top shingles, and I thought it looked pretty cool, so I left it the way it was. Alright, now for the edge of the shingles, we don't want to see those, so using the plan, we're going to cut out a nice sweeping beam that we're just going to glue into place and cover that up. Alright, now we're going to make the chimney, and the base is going to be out of aluminum foil, so we have something to glue the foam to. Now I'm using my Hotwire Foam Factory hot wire knife. You can grab discounts to all their tools and other affiliates of mine on my website at www.tabletopwitchcraft.com. Go check that out, get yourself a discount. But basically, we're just going to cut out a bunch of boulders and we're going to glue them right to the aluminum foil. You'll notice that some of them, like this one, I've really hollowed the back out. So the facade looks like a stone, but I'm just going to wrap it around the aluminum foil, giving the look of a solid boulder, and it makes this job really easy. Alright, we glued a magnet to the top of that chimney. You'll see why in just a little bit. And now adding some tacky glue to the larger areas between the stones, we can then add some smaller rocks that I've picked up from a hobby store and just kind of finish that off. Alright, now we're going over to the wood texture roller by Green Stuff World. I'm going to use that for the floor of the Hags Hut. You'll notice in the bottom of the screen, I've got 4 large magnets in the corners of each one. I put those in place, and then I can place this clay on top. You'll never see the magnets, and now it's magnetized to hold it right to the building itself. Now, one more roller from Green Stuff World. It's the flagstone. I'm going to use this for the hearth and the floor of the fireplace in the Hags Hut. Alright, and right here I just whipped up a quick staircase out of a solid chunk of XPS foam. Alright, now we're jumping over to the X tool with the 20-watt laser. I'm going to use this to cut out the window that Gerard Boom had designed for me. This is going to be the big, large, round window in the front of the Hags Hut. Now, I wanted to go and design my own door for the building. I wanted the door to have green light shining out through the slats in the door. And to scale, these are some really narrow slats. And I didn't know how this machine was going to handle it, and it knocked it out of the park. Wait till you see this. Once this door is done cutting out, I had the main part of the door and some timbers to kind of like hold it together. Here's a little handle for the door. But check out the precision here. Once we glue these pieces on, I'm going to hold a flashlight up to the back of this door, and you can literally see all of the light coming right through. I mean, that you almost can't even fit a piece of paper between those. So I was super pumped with the way this door turned out. Alright, jumping over to some shifting lands, stained glass. We're going to add these to the window. And behind that stained glass, I just roughed up some clear plastic so you can't see through the window. Once that's done, we can slap some black paint and Mod Podge to this. And then while that's curing or drying, I added a little bit of burnt umber ink just to all of this 2mm like chipboard, I think it is. And that was all I needed to paint up the door. Real simple. For the floor, all I used was a brown wash. That's it. No paint, nothing else. I left the wash a little heavy in some spots. And now for the painting of the brick itself. Follow from top left, top right, bottom left, bottom right. But it's a dark gray to a light gray to a white dry brush. I used a little green for some moss effect. And then I went through and I took some Agrax Earthshade and a little Nuln Oil, and I watered it down. You don't need a lot of this, so before you freak out that I used Agrax and Nuln Oil on this, it really wasn't much. Once that cured, leaving a few of the grout lines white still, I went back with some brown paint and just touched a few of the bricks, and it came out really nice. It was dark. It had kind of a grungy, eerie effect, almost like something you'd see in a swamp, which was the look that I was going for, and I was real happy with the outcome. Alright, now this is where you get what you pay for. I don't know where these brushes have been my whole life, but the Artist Opus dry brush set, they're D-series, you gotta go check them out. I'll put a link in the description below. You get like literally an airbrush effect from these dry brushes. I could not be happier with them. There's 10 different brushes in the set that I have, getting all the little nooks and crannies, all the highlights. I mean, just absolutely incredible brushes. I highly urge you to go check them out and see what you can do for yourself with these brushes. For the roof, I went with a dark blue paint. I thought it complemented the rest of the build pretty well. Use a color wheel when you're trying to decide these things. It gives you an idea of what you should be doing. Terraintronics, this is the Conway board. You've seen me use these in many of my videos. It can control the brightness of up to 4 LEDs. It's an amazing piece of equipment to have. And all I did was pop those LEDs through the floor of the clay, add a little bit of 3D resin to them, some beads, then some busted up bones and some sticks, and we had a really awesome looking fire. Sticking this under this light for about a minute, it cures, and we're ready to keep on moving. For 2 of the LEDs, I made them into flames, and the other 2 I left under the embers to make it look like it was just glowing and kind of some coals burning in the fireplace. Now we can add all of our windows. We're going to add the door, all these things, and I'm just using some tacky glue. It holds them in real nice and tight. Here's another cool little piece that I've added. This is from Shifting Lands, that little ridge decoration on the roof. And now when it comes to adding the flocking, you don't want to go crazy and add too much. You can see it's just a little bit. Some on the roof. We had some bigger stuff coming out of the chimney. If you look real close, you can see some really tiny green tufts on the roof and the stairs. Now we're going to grab some Green Stuff World vines. This stuff is super strong. You don't have to worry about it falling apart or flaking. Love it. Added some just to one corner for a little detail. All right, now this is the new Wisdom board by Terraintronics. Now it doesn't get much easier than this. The most technical part is making sure that battery right there goes in correctly. Put it in like that. Hook the positive to positive, negative to negative on the light. And when that reed switch gets near a magnet, the light comes on. Super simple. And now to protect this, because this LED does get hot, I put a little clear piece of plastic over top. For a little buffer, I put a piece of chipboard and then the Wisdom board. Hot gluing those in. This can now be placed on top of the chimney when you want smoke. And for the smoke effect, I'm just taking a little bit of cotton. We're going to airbrush it a couple different colors. And now this is all set and ready to get tossed right on top of the chimney. And finally, we got a new prototype board here from Terraintronics. It's not out yet. We're kind of calling it the Mimic board. And what this does is it takes another LED, in this case one that's flickering, and it's going to tell any other LED that's hooked up to the board to do the same. So that little star green LED is not a flickering LED, but that board is going to make it flicker. How awesome is that? Sticking that inside of the Hags Hut. This is now set and all ready for the game table. Alright, so I really hope you enjoyed this video. Now don't forget, this is Baba Lysaga's hut. There's a lot more to come. Spoiler alert, there's some big legs getting added to this, and they're not chicken legs. This is Baba Lysaga's hut. Hit that bell notification so you don't miss out on next week's video. Like and subscribe. It's one of the easiest ways to help support my channel. If you want to support it in other ways, visit me over on Patreon. There's a lot of tiers there that you can help give a little something back to my channel, and you get something really fun in return, like hanging out with me live at night while I'm actually making these crafts. Alright, until next time, I'll see you around.